Hello, hello. Ooh, I am out of practice. Hi, happy Sunday, everyone. Let me adjust and get myself together. Happy not first Sunday, first time back in June. Hey, YouTube. The power is back on, so to speak, literally and figuratively. This morning, I need to investigate what this electricity issue is, and it's not just me. It's actually in my community. The power went out this morning, and then it came back on. And if some of you remember, a couple of weeks ago, I had an electrical issue in my house, so I gotta see what's going on with the energy around me. But nevertheless, hello, welcome back. I missed y'all. I missed this space. I missed this time. I really do have to get into the swing of things. I'm a little bit delayed because I recognized that there were some things that needed to be changed at the last minute because your girl has been in somewhat of vacation mode when it comes to being a spiritual life coach. She has been on pause, and I hope to change that. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you who left comments and concerns in regards to the hiatus. Let me just say, please forgive me if the pause created any feelings of abandonment or neglect within you. It would not be out of the realm of possibility to feel that. And if you do feel that, I hope that you acknowledge it. I hope that anytime you have those feelings of abandonment or neglect or being unappreciated, I hope you acknowledge it no matter where the source or where it comes from. Always acknowledge it for yourself so that your body doesn't feel like you are betraying it. Oftentimes when we feel things, we try to dismiss it and say, oh, it's not that, or oh no, I'm being silly. Start to acknowledge everything that you feel. You can do some investigation to see whether it is warranted later on, but please, at the very least, acknowledge what you are feeling. And so we had a regular pattern going on, meeting every Sunday at 1:30 here on YouTube, here on Instagram and on Facebook, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then I needed to pause. That doesn't mean that it did not create a feeling or a sense of disruption for you. And however I might be woven into your life's journey or healing journey. So forgive me if that was the case. If you would like to speak about it further, please reach out to me so we can have some open dialogue, so we can start to teach ourselves, how do I handle when I feel abandoned, neglected, unappreciated? Don't dismiss those feelings. Learn how to support yourself through that. And one of the ways is to, number one, acknowledge it and say, yeah, this is real. Number two, it may be out of place in terms of the responsibility that I'm putting on it. If you're putting the responsibility on me or anyone else to consistently make you feel appreciated and supported, then you might need to look at that. But that doesn't mean that you don't feel it, that what you're feeling isn't real. And so, if my absence created any feelings that are familiar to you that feel like neglect, abandonment, disappointment, whatever it is, please let me know. For the most part, many of you were very supportive, and I appreciate that. I have been witnessing and seeing so many different human interactions in my own life and other people's lives where people are just behaving, saying, doing, and creating energy that may be misguided. And so I'm grateful that those of you who reached out did so with love and support, because certainly there were feelings of guilt, like, oh my gosh, you can't just abandon Chip. But Yolanda needed to take care of herself. Happy Sunday, Miss Marissa. I just got finished watching your video on healing. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Marissa, please go to her channel here on YouTube to watch what she just talked about. The question that she posed is not just a question for some, I think it's a question for all of us. Hello, metabolic Maven, how are you? And thank you for your kind words. Yes, love always. It is a question that I think we need to ask ourselves on a regular basis because the answer may be different depending upon what's going on in our life, how we're feeling, our perspective. But it certainly is a valuable question. It is a great prompt for journaling for those of you who are journaling. It is a great prompt to, if you don't know what to journal about, pose a question to yourself and then take a breath, take 3 breaths, and then answer. Doesn't mean that you can't ask that question 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 2 months from now. You may have a different answer, and then you can see where you were and you can see where you are. Oh, my sweet thing on here. Hey, sweet thing, my beloved. Yes, please come in, say hello. Let us know where you are in the world. Thank you for welcoming me back, Celeste. I appreciate it. We are all deserving of kindness. We may not always find it, but if you can't find it, you better start creating it for yourself. I am not going to be out here starving for some kindness and some love. If I can't find it in other places, then hopefully, you start with your ways. Been blessed in meeting some of the kindest and truest hearts. I mean it. I'm grateful for that. Before I left, I said to everyone, make sure that you pour yourself a good big glass of gratitude. That has been helpful. But it was time for a break. And the interesting thing is when I solely had my own business, I started a business in 2017. I would take the summers off. I knew that the level that I was operating required for me to rest. And so oftentimes I would take 1 or 2 months over the summer, I would take off. And I had forgotten about that. And one thing I always say, if you don't take your rest, it's going to happen willingly or unwillingly. One way or another, your body is going to tell you, if you're not going to take the step to rest, then I'm going to have to sit you down. And I'm so grateful that I didn't have to get to that point. That's right, Celeste. Celeste, did you ever email me? Because I said I had something for you. Let me put my email address up there. So if you don't want me to, send stuff to your house, I completely understand. But there's something that I have for you. North Carolina, hometown of Detroit. I have never been to Detroit. I've always said I want to go at least one time. I know better than to go in the fall or the winter, and that goes for Chicago too. So I have to put that into the universe that at some point I will get to Detroit. Um, so other things that have happened we were all on hiatus. Tell me what was going on for you. What did I miss? What things came up that we need to talk about? I would love to do that too before I get into what I discovered about myself, what I discovered about this space, and what I am now prepared to offer to the world. If there were some things going on for you that we need to talk about, pray about, meditate about, please. And if you don't mind sharing, please let us know. You will notice, if you haven't already, that YouTube is the only channel that this is streaming. I have made a decision to limit the places and spaces that I go because it's better for my health. I have decided to not just not post or stream in those places, but to probably not engage as well. I'm probably going to deactivate my Facebook today because not posting for 3 weeks and not really engaging, what I discovered is I don't really need it. It's not adding the value to my life that it used to at one time. If there's people I need to see or talk to, then I need to be more proactive in picking up the phone or going to see those people instead of just spying on them on Facebook. The other thing that I've discovered is the level of toxicity that is present in the web space is just not something I want to participate in. As we are gearing up here in the US we're already in election mode. I just don't want to be part of the toxicity. I can be a well informed citizen and a well informed voter without having to get my information from sources um, that I don't care to get them from. That's what news vehicles are for. Um, and I just don't really have time for where I'm going. I don't have time to engage in all of these different multiple places. So, for those of you who are content creators, I do not consider myself a content creator. I am a spiritual life coach. This is the medium in which I do some of my coaching. And so, I had to make a clear boundary of what do you want your life to look like and what is it that you are willing to spend your time doing. And I am not willing to spend my time posting here, posting there, doing multiple videos. I may have done it in the past. I just don't have it. I just don't have it in me to do or to participate in. um, Marissa, thank you for sharing. Coming out of survival mode. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, when you come to the point where you recognize you can no longer operate in the way that you used to, there is that period of, okay, well, how you gonna operate? And for me, I think that's what the pause was about. It was like, this is not working for me. The level of anxiety, the level of aggression. I recognized in myself that I was just being irritated with folks who did absolutely nothing to me, and I'm like, what is going on? Well, when you are consuming that kind of energy, it becomes part of your consciousness, and I just don't want to participate in conversations where we are separating ourselves, whether it's politically, whether it's by gender, whether it's by race, whether it's by generation. I just don't want to be part of those conversations. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want it to be living in my consciousness. And so I am grateful that, similar to you, Marissa, me coming out of that is it's me telling myself, you don't have to do that. And as they say, if you continue to do things the way you've always done them and you're expecting another result, we all know what that is, a waste of time and madness. And so when you are looking to do a new thing, you have to create new ways of doing things. And so you might also be in that position where you're like, okay, I know this is not working, but what is working? What will work from the new me and the new version of life that I am creating? So that is a great awareness to have when you get to the point where you're like, the old me does not live here anymore. And I think we talked about that before the break, because there was a song that I was listening to, and one of the lyrics was, the old me, it's going to take some time because the old me, whew, doesn't work anymore. So it's going to take me some time to develop and to figure out what works for me now. Thank you, my love. Giselle, you've been a ride or die from the beginning. Thank you so much for that. That does make my heart expand 20 times over. Thank you for that. Um, there were some health challenges that I am also dealing with. Um, so I took that break, I think, a month after my 53rd birthday, and I realized I feel like I am aging rapidly. And I don't blame anyone else for that except for me. Um, and I need to figure out why that is. And so I went to the doctor, did what I was supposed to do, have some additional things that I need to do. And I'm not in a place where I would like to be health wise, but I know that that is coming. As a matter of fact, about 5 minutes before I pressed the go live button, I was like, I don't feel well. I just don't feel well. And so I haven't been 100% the me that I know that I can be. But I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I am getting answers, that I am asking questions. And for any single one of us who, as part of your healing journey, you are now taking a different look at your wellness and where you are health wise, please, please, please become an active participant in your health care. Really being an active participant means that you don't just go to the doctors, listen to what they have to say, and you're on your way. One of my favorite health practitioners actually left the practice she was with because they had a mandate that they could spend no more than 15 minutes per patient because they needed to see X amount of patients per day. And so for a lot of the medical professionals, this is medical profession has now become a business. And so they may not be giving you the information, the time, and the resources that you need to make informed decisions. So you have to make sure that when you are working with your medical professionals, you are telling them what your expectations are. You are telling them what they need to do, as well as them telling you. It's a conversation. You know what I mean? It's not, I'm coming to you, you're going to tell me what to do, and then I'm going to feel better. It's, this is my body. I am in control of it. I'm going to tell you what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And let's have a discussion about what is going to work. And so please, please, please become an active participant in your health care. Celeste, we are in the same boat. We might have different expectations of where we're going, but we're in the same boat. That is also a part of what's going on for me. My blood sugar levels are all over the place, and I've had to drastically change my diet, and it shouldn't be a struggle, but it is a struggle because of my lifestyle. So that's another reason why it's like, okay, you have to go back to what you know. On top of being a spiritual life coach, I'm like this much away from certification as a nutrition coach. I have been doing that longer than spiritual life coaching. And so I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to eat. I know all of those things, but integrating that into my life now versus 10 years ago looks different. And so that is also part of the challenge, right? Trying to figure out how am I going to maintain this level of accountability when I need things to be fast, easy, and delicious. You know, I'm at the age where I feel like I don't have many pleasures left. Please let food be one of them. And that was not always my way. There was a time when I was at my best health wise, and it was because I didn't look at food as a pleasurable experience. I looked at it as what it is, which is fuel. It's like I have to eat in order to live. So let me eat and not think about, you know, what it tastes like, what it looks like. Let me eat the things that I know are going to be good for my body. And I didn't have a problem. I was out here rocking it. And now it's like, okay, I'm not doing some of the things I used to do. So food is one of the last pleasures that I feel like I have in my life. So yeah, that can be a challenge. I'm happy for you that you are med free. I, you know, could say that at one time. I can't say it right now, but my intention is not to be on this medication for a long term because I don't like the way it's making me feel and I'm forgetting to do it. I don't like it. So that is also motivation for me to change things so that that's not the rest of my life. I, you know, grew up with parents who could have opened up their own pharmacy from the amount of pills that they took on a daily basis just to keep them going. And I was adamant that that would not be me. We literally would have to put all of their medications in a binder because it seemed to change all the time. There were so many, had to make sure this one wasn't interacting with that one. It just was something that I never wanted to happen in my life. And so that is motivation for me to do better as well. So Marissa is coming out of survival mode. Celeste is managing her blood sugar levels. So it sounds like many of us are in this transition phase from what was to the new what is. And maybe we don't always know what the what is, what it's going to look like, but it's a good place to be in because you're taking in information, you're processing it. Hopefully, you're taking your time to process it in the way that works for you. And then you can make, again, more informed decisions about how you want your life to look, what your vision is for your life, how you live your life with intention, what prayer for your life is. All of those things will come together when you do this kind of investigation, which is what we have been doing with the Power 24 series. If you go all the way back to the beginning videos, we looked at where we were physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And then we got to May, and I was like, this is it, y'all. We're about to hit the road. And I was like, before we hit the road, let us make sure that we are in the right frame of mind, Yolanda. Let us make sure we are in the right spirit before we get to what I call the good stuff. And one of the other reasons to make this change from streamlining, going from I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, it was a distraction trying to keep up with all of that. And so one of the other things is I recognize that those of us who find ourselves on social media offering content or offering engagement, we are in a entertainment buffet where anyone can take a bite of whatever they choose. And so in order to get people engaged and keep them engaged, it can be challenging. It can be difficult when there's such a bonanza of opportunity and offers. People could listen to podcasts, watch videos. Like some people do both of those things at the same time. They could be watching one video, listening to a podcast, something's on the TV. Like there is so much for us to consume. If you have are making it a point that part of your life is to engage people on social media, it can be challenging to keep people engaged for a particular time, to keep people interested, to add value to people's lives. Like it really can be challenging. And I'm always the type to say, I'm not dancing in front of no camera just for people to hear what I have to say. And so that's another reason why I've streamlined to focus solely on YouTube, because I also recognize how important this is for my healing journey to be here with you, to feel like you are my accountability partner and I am yours, to feel like we are creating an energy and a place for processing this thing called life. Let us not forget that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so, talking about our human experiences and how it is affecting us on a day to day basis is what I think spiritual beings should be doing. If I am, and I know that I am, and that you are, in possession of all of this wisdom, all of this knowledge, all of this spiritual diversity that's around us all of the time, why wouldn't we want to share that with one another? As I said, I was just watching Marissa's video where she posed a question. Please go to her channel so that you can ask yourself that question, because it's a very important question to ask, because that will generate thought, and that thought hopefully will generate a feeling, and that feeling will hopefully, together, the thought and the feeling will generate some new behavior that will place you in a position where you feel like this is where I want to be. This is how I want to feel. This is the perspective and the consciousness that I want to carry. I think that's all of our responsibility. So we can say, you know what, today I'm not well. So somebody else can say, you know what, I'm not well either. What do we do about that? How do we support each other? How do we figure this out together? You know, for those of us who are coming out of survival mode, where you literally feel like you are pulling your fingers off of whatever support bar you have been holding on to and still feeling like, am I going to fall? Do I have something to stand on? Can I trust myself? Can I believe in myself enough to not continue to do what I've always done, which I felt like was getting me through life? Can I stand on my own without standing on those defense mechanisms and those coping mechanisms that I keep telling myself is the reason why, I am where I am, without recognizing and acknowledging you are where you are because you are a spiritual being having a human experience, and there is something guiding you, pulling you, and something that guided and pulled you into existence in the first place is still within you. It's still within you. And when we call more on that part of our life experience, instead of always depending upon the things that we went through our human experience, then maybe we won't all feel so chaotic, all out of sorts, where we won't feel like our health is all out of balance because we will have more information to do the things that we know that we need to do. You know what to do. You absolutely know what to do. The challenge is removing all of that other stuff that tells you that you don't. Removing all of those conversations out of your head that seem to wake you up when you have just started to rest. Did I forget to do this? Did I forget to do that? Well, what I got to do tomorrow? And who do I need to talk to? And oh my God, I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And look at where I'm at in life. And am I failing or am I succeeding? I can't tell. They both feel the same. Yes, my we need one another to support one another, to say you are not in this alone. It's not just you feeling this way. It's not just you thinking, I can't tell anybody these thoughts that I'm having because they're going to think I'm crazy or they're going to think something is wrong with me. There's something going on with all of us, and it's not wrong. It's all of this programming that we have learned to conform, to be good little girls and good little boys and not complain, to make it through. And that is coming out of survival mode where we say to ourselves, I don't have to do that. Like I said earlier, if there's a feeling that's coming up for you, you better acknowledge that feeling instead of dismissing it because it might make somebody else uncomfortable or because you were taught you're not supposed to be angry. You're not supposed to, be unforgiving. You're not supposed to be all of these things. And Marissa, in that video, I heard you say, get to the point where you tell what I say is the bald headed truth. If people harmed you, then yes, they harmed you. Even if it was not their intention to do, if it felt harmful, acknowledge that. That felt crappy when my mother said some of the things that she said, even though she may not have meant it in the way that I received it that way. It felt that way to me, and and I feel that it was real. Doesn't mean that you get to drag your mother in front of you and say, you did these things to me and you hurt me, because she may not even be aware of it or even acknowledge it. And then it's going to hurt you two times. The fact that she did it and the fact that she doesn't acknowledge it is going to hurt you two times. So how do you hold that stuff for yourself? How do you become a container that holds all of the things that have ever happened to you in your life and still manage to feel good about who you are? How do we do that? Go to Marissa's channel. She poses the question. And the second half of this year, that's what we're going to be talking about. That to me is the foundation of Power 24, of taking our power back. Instead of all of these places where our power is leaking out, somebody says something to you, your feelings get hurt, and now your power is just leaking out on the floor. You tried something, it didn't work, and now your power is leaking out on the floor because now you're in a shame spiral. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that didn't work. I'm never going to get this. I'm never going to do that. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas start to rise to the surface. And before you know it, you under the blanket watching Netflix, eating, cookies because that feels good. And then you feel bad about it because you're like, I just wasted 5 hours watching other people fall in love, watching other people make money, watching other people live out their dreams. And I'm sitting here under this blanket and I can't even figure out why I feel as bad as I feel. Whew. Yes, ma'am, Giselle. Thank you for sharing. I've been struggling to embark on an old idea in a new way. There was a lot of noise in my head. I needed to hear this affirming language. Listen, the fact that you are aware and can even remember what the old idea is. My beloved asked me a question this morning, and it was only 5 seconds after it happened. I was like, I don't even know. The fact that you are still holding on to what you consider to be an old idea and how to turn it into something new tells me that the process of it becoming a new thing is already happening. and you've already identified that there's a lot of noise going on in your head. You halfway there. You are halfway there. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to happen today, tomorrow. I am recognizing that there are things unfolding in my life that started years ago. And I'm just becoming aware. Oh my gosh. You mean to tell me I've been working on this for 9 years, off and on, off and on, off and down, and now I'm seeing it? There was a woman, a video I was watching because I'm trying to get my outdoor garden together. And she didn't know anything about rose bushes. And she planted a rose bush and she was like, I don't know what I did wrong. And all of the seasoned gardeners in the comments were telling her that's a 3 year process. The first year, nothing happens. The second year, things start to happen. You're not going to see a bountiful harvest until the third year. So they were all telling her, have patience. Don't do anything because sometimes what happens, we don't see progress and then we start cutting at the poor little rose bush. We're pouring all this stuff on it, chemicals, fertilizer, because we're thinking we're supposed to immediately see something, not realizing that everything has its own process and its own stages that it needs to go through. And so I'm grateful that you recognize that there is this old concept, and it may not be so old. It may be that you planted the seed years ago and it's just been dormant. It's needed some things to, start to grow. But the fact that you are aware of it, you know how many journals and pieces of paper of things, of ideas that I have written, and I don't know where some of those pieces of paper or what those ideas are. And sometimes I find them and I'm like, what the heck is this? I was going to do what? I wanted to, what? This doesn't even make sense to me. So kudos to you for continuing to hold on to that dream and recognizing I might have to do this in a different way. I was just thinking this morning that my perspective on business may be different than other people. So I have to be mindful in the way in which I present my business. And so I have my notes over here. I'm going to get to what my business is going to become in a minute, but I recognize that I started my business before the pandemic. There are many of us who started businesses during or as a result of the pandemic. And so your perspective may be different. 7 years ago, we didn't have to compete in the way that we are competing for space now. Like I said earlier, the social media has created a engagement buffet, where people are getting snippets of this, snippets of that, snippets of this, snippets of that. I'm not that old, but I can remember that there was a time when television commercials were very long. And then they went to 30 seconds. And now they're like that. They can show you an ad in under 3 minutes. So we have to be mindful that when we are offering something, that the consumer's attention span is not what it used to be. And I'm even mindful of that. Like I have on my notes, you better not go over an hour and a half, because I recognize that because our attention spans are smaller than what we used to be, we are expecting to be able to do more things than we ever have. I remember when I used to be grateful if I was able to get up, go to work, come home, cook dinner, and get all of the kids in the bed. Like to me, that was a successful day. And now it's like before you even get to work, working, then you get to work and you might be doing your job and another job. You might, for those of us who know that struggle, you might be doing the job that they're paying you for, but also trying to do your side hustle during your lunch hour. And then, we are doing so many things at one time. We may not recognize that it's not that we're failing, it's that we're overwhelmed because our attention spans are not what they used to be. So if you can train yourself, train your own mind to get to a place where you are focused on one thing and one thing only for a particular amount of time, kudos to you, which is why I said we got to do away with all of these different social media channels because it's distracting to what it is that I want for my life. I had that other monitor over here. I done put that thing to the side. We don't, mm-mm, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I want to have my attention and intention so focused that the distractions are less and less and less. Hey, happy Sunday to you, my dear. How are you? And so some of the things that are going to be changing in this space. Before I get there, let me read similar as Marissa posed a question. One of the questions that came out of my journaling over these past 3 weeks when I got so frustrated with myself. I was like, this is not working. Why is it not working? You have all of the tools for things to work, and something it's like a trying to now I'm showing my age. There was a time when you had to put a key in a car and turn for it to start. And that's what it's been feeling like. Like the key is in the ignition. I'm turning it and it's just clicking. And it's like, why is it not turning over? Why is it not turning over? Why is it not turning over? And so the question that formulated for me that I journaled about is why do I, and I'm taking full responsibility, why do I create energetic patterns that separate me from who and what I love and desire? I'm going to read that one more time. Why do I create energetic patterns that separate me from who and what I love and desire? And every single one of those words are meaningful because I'm taking accountability that I know I am creating energetic patterns. And anywhere you create an energetic pattern means it becomes a habit that you do over and over and over. And I want to ask myself, I want to ask my mind, my body, and my spirit, why are you doing this? Why are you continuously creating energetic patterns that separate you from the things that you love and desire? Why does it even exist? How deep in my DNA are those limiting thoughts buried, and where is it feeding? Because if something is within you and you are sustaining it, you are feeding it with something. So this is me getting to the nitty gritty, down to the root, asking myself, spirit, ancestors, everyone, let's cut this thing out like it was a cancer. Why does it exist? And what is it feeding on? And what keeps it alive? Why does it have a pulse? Why does it keep coming up? And for me, it can look like disappointment. It can look like frustration. It can look like distraction, procrastination. Why do I keep creating those energetic patterns? Why? And I'm not putting it off on anyone else. I am taking accountability that I am creating this. And so this is some of the things that I came up with. Number one, fear. I'm afraid of not living up to my own expectations. Number two, I wrote trauma. Being happy sometimes ends in disappointment. Whew, that's that waiting for the other shoe to drop. That is something that is created and that can be created in childhood when things seem to be going great and boom, something happens to just knock all of that out of the box. Or people keep making promises to you as a young child and they're never fulfilled. Whew. Listen, I'm feeling that now, Marissa. I'm feeling that now. And that is very, very common in childhood where people are making promises and it never happens. And so as a child, you start to learn don't believe in happy endings, don't believe what the adults say, don't believe things are possible, or unless you make it happen for yourself. And that is a horrible lesson for young children to learn. It is a life lesson, but it can be so jarring that it gets down in your DNA and you become the type of individual that doesn't even look forward to things working out. You are already planning for things to self destruct because maybe in your childhood experience, things were self destructing at a regular rate, and no one gave you the tools. No one gave you the tools to handle it. It is a common human experience that things don't always work out the way that they are supposed to. How many of us were given the tools of how to deal with that? Whew. Let's all take a breath and think about that. Did my caregivers, and when I say caregivers, I'm not just saying parents, I mean anyone who is responsible for your development, teachers, community, clergy, whomever, media, whomever, what had an impact on your development? Did they give you the tools? Because many of them didn't have the tools themselves. You can't really teach something that you don't haven't been taught. And so I say all the time, I love and honor Rosa and Daniel, my parents, but they did not have the tools. They did not do well when things fell apart. They more than likely either drank it away, shopped it away, threw money at it, you know, all of the things that we now know are part of that survival mode instead of directly dealing with the issue. One of the things that we work on in the child care center, you know, those 4 year olds, those 3 year olds, pretty much the 2 to 3 and the 4 year olds, they love to hit. Somebody does something they don't like, their first response, hit someone. And so we're constantly working on, if you are angry, you have to figure out another way to support yourself that doesn't cause harm to you or someone else. How do you support yourself through disappointment? If we can teach children how to do that, then hopefully we don't have a whole bunch of adults growing up hitting at people, hurting people, harming people with words, physical violence, and all of the other nonsense that we see going on. And so, if that was part of your childhood experience and you recognize and acknowledge, I didn't get the tools to learn how to support myself through this. And so I created whatever I felt was necessary. Can you imagine being 7 years old and having to create a system that works for you so you are not constantly hurt and harmed? Most 7 year olds, that's lying. When children are telling a lie, it's because they have learned this might be the way that I take care of myself. This might be the way that the adults are not angry with me. You know, we have a young person at our center. Boy, he can tell a good story. I mean, sometimes I'm like this, tell me more. And then what happened? What? Are you get out? Like, his little boy has learned to create, with his imagination, has learned to create this world that keeps him safe. And on one hand, I'm like, wow, that amount of energy for a 5 year old to have to expend in order so he feels safe in his body, because perhaps he doesn't feel safe with the adults in his life. If that's something that he's going to have to do for the rest of his life, when we see adults who are crafty at lying, I mean diabolical with it. Like, you don't even have to wait for the response, and when you are believing it, you're like, wow, how charismatic. And just, I avoided looking at all of the red flags because what I was given was so good. Well, honey, that person probably has been doing that since they were 5 years old. It's like, let me do what I got to do to keep myself safe. And so tell the truth about it so that your body doesn't think that you are betraying it. But now, as the adult who is responsible for it, what are we going to do? How do we take care of ourselves in such a way that we don't re-traumatize ourselves and that we don't harm other people. Thank you for sharing, Celeste. I lost my mom at age 11. Ooh, and dad at 9. Whew. And I'm certain that those issues of abandonment feel like different things on different days, because if you've had to live with that feeling and that experience for this amount of time, you could probably write a handbook on all the different ways that you have had to support yourself through those feelings. And I pray that there were individuals in your life who understood what an 11-year-old or a 9-year-old goes through when they lose someone significant in their life. I pray that you were surrounded by individuals who took that into account and treated you with care. Handle with care. You know that stamp that they used to put on, they may still put on boxes, handle with care. It's like, yeah, handle me with care because I have gone through some things. And I hope that you in your adult life also have that. Listen, I said to his mother one day, I was like, he's definitely gonna be in entertainment because the stories that this young man comes up with, I literally am like, oh my gosh, tell me more. And yes, let's pray that he uses that for good, that he can take that survival mode tactic and transform it into something greater. And I pray that for all of us, that we take those tactics that we learn, because we can't undo what happened to us in our childhood. We can't rewrite the story. We could, but that wouldn't be telling the truth. We can't go back and say, okay, that didn't happen that way. We can tell the truth and say, you know what? Somebody dropped the ball in this arena of my life. I am now picking that ball up and I'm going to start giving myself what I need. But this is what I know. As a child of an alcoholic, I also learned how to decipher the energy in my home. And so, why you think I'm an energy healer? Because I've been doing it for a long time. You know, I had to pick up on things that were not spoken. And I think I've said this before. I would get home from school and stop at my front door, and I could just tell what the energy was like on the other side. And so that's why I'm an energy healer at this moment in my life, because I've been doing it for a long time. One of the reasons I became a massage therapist, I believe, is because when my son Isaiah was very young and had all of these sensory integration issues, we didn't know how to, it wasn't going to work with words. It only worked with touch. And so I learned where, how to touch him to help him calm his nervous system. And so parlay that into becoming a massage therapist. So if you can take what you learned from your childhood trauma and transform it into something greater, listen, I know why I know so many social workers. I know why I know so many social workers, because of the things that you experienced in your childhood. You said not another child is going to experience, not another person is going to have to experience this alone. I know why I know so many teachers. I know why. Listen, I'm grateful that you had that. I'm grateful that you had that. Um, so, yeah, coming out of survival mode is also recognizing if I did not have that experience, I wouldn't have what I now have and can use for a greater good. We sometimes like to tell the story that maybe if my dad wasn't an alcoholic, everything would have been better. It could have been 20 million times worse. I don't know that. And for me to get stuck on a story that I don't know whether it's true or not, it does nothing for me. So for any one of us who are saying, well, if my mom wasn't this way, and if my dad wasn't this way, and if my uncles or my, if they were different, then it could have been better. But we don't know that to be true, because what we now know, that even those individuals who grow up in households with two parents and everybody is getting along, there are still experiences that can happen to us that traumatize us. I don't care, and I've said it before, if somebody stole your bike when you were 4, that could traumatize you as deeply as someone else who may have lost someone that they love dearly. It is all relative to our experiences, all relative to our experiences. So acknowledge what you are feeling. Do not dismiss those feelings when they arise. And so going back to my journal, when I asked myself those questions, I'm like, my fear, my trauma, and this last one, when I wrote it down, I walked away from my journal and I was like, I don't even want to look at myself in the mirror. But what I wrote down is denying God's will to live in my life. I can't tell you how many times I have recognized that God, that the energy of God and all that is good for me is tapping on my shoulder. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet. Or who you talking to? Or are you talking to me? I'm not, I can't do it. There are so many times, so many opportunities that come my way, and I can get that initial burst of excitement, but then automatically shrink because I feel like it's too big. I feel like it has come directly from God, and I am telling myself it is too big for me to handle. The responsibility is too great. I'm too little. You know, whatever it sounds like on that particular day, I recognize it as me denying God's will to operate in my life. And what we going to do about that? Yolanda, how are you co-creating with the energy of the Most High, and you're not holding up your end of the bargain because you're too scared, you're too afraid, you're saying, I'm not ready, I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't do this, I can't do that, or I got to do all of these other things first. How many times is the door wide open for me to step through, and I'm like, let somebody else walk through? Or how many times am I opening the door for other people? Like, you're going to be great. You going out there. You, yeah, go, go, go. And I'm standing on the other side of the door just looking like, I wish that was me. I wish I had enough bravery, courage, and all of the other things that I think I don't have in order to align myself with the very things that I say that I love and I desire. So those 3 weeks were definitely necessary for me to get myself together, for me to ask those questions, for me to answer. Again, I could ask myself these questions 2 weeks from now and come up with completely different answers. None of them are righter than the others. None of them are more correct than the others. All of them are valid. All of them are valid. Let me tell you something. I had no idea of how I was being set up for something later in life, touching people, and what I learned through touching people with consent in an appropriate manner. Oh, you do healing touch, yes. Listen, it is a lifesaver, and I'm grateful. I may not be happy that I had to go through the experience of whew, all of the experiences that my family went through in trying to discover how to help my son with autism, because it wasn't easy. But I'm grateful for what came out of that, that I recognize the level of importance in all of our lives. And if I had not gone through that experience, I don't think that it would have impacted me in that way. Oh, bless your heart. And I didn't even know you were a social worker. But now that I know that, now that I know that, I'm telling you, I know a lot of social workers. And I know it's because of that feeling. That feeling of I can feel it. You may not be able to express it or explain it, but I can feel it. I can feel it. Listen, out here with pom poms for everybody else but ourselves, right? And we have to take a look at what that is, why that is. And it could be because perhaps as you were developing, there may not have been cheers from the sideline for you, or you didn't feel like those cheers were warranted. It could be a multitude of things. But when you have to ask yourself, why don't I cheer for myself? Why am I not bigging up myself? Why am I so afraid of promoting myself, of putting myself out there, particularly when there are people who have no problem with it and we're looking at them with a side eye like, what are you promoting? What are you talking about? Um, that's again something that perhaps you journal about, because that's another point of where your power. I'm not saying anything is wrong with supporting others. We should be supporting each other. But why won't you support yourself? Why are you so quiet when it comes to your gifts, your talent, and your greatness? Why? And so I also came up with answers to some of those questions. The fear, the trauma, the denying God's will to express in my life. It's like, well, how do you support yourself, Yolanda? How do you transform those kind of, ooh, you want to talk about some solar plexus wounds, Erica? Yes, yes. And I wish I could show you. I don't know where it's over on my altar. Today happens to be my anniversary of graduating from the Institute of Intervisions Institute of Spiritual Development, where I got my certification as a spiritual life coach. Um, Intervisions, founded by Ian Van Zant. I graduated 5 years today, June 9th, 5 years ago. And on my certification, it talks about the solar plexus being my power center, but also the place where I'm going to be heard most. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I know all about that solar plexus wounding, but I also know it is my power center. It's where I flourish the most. And so I answered, what do you do when you identified it's the fears, the trauma, it's denying God's will? Well, what do you do for yourself in order to transform that? Number one, structure. I recognize, thank you for that. I recognize that I have to have more structure, and not to the point where I'm rigid, but to the point where I can operate from a place of certainty. And I don't always like to do that. Even when I do this on Sundays, I sometimes wait until maybe an hour before, and I'm like, all right, spirit, what are we doing today? Where is it coming from? What are we talking about? And I like that way of being, that I can sit, receive, and be ready, and download and be ready. But there's nothing wrong with trying something new, right? And so for me and for this space, it will be structure. Structure gives us a foundation, it gives us a guide, it allows us to create more certainty, which makes us also feel more confident. Thank you. Thank you. And so ask yourself, how much structure do you have in your life? Some of us are so structured that we're rigid, there is no flexibility. There has to be a healthy balance. And for me, I haven't really had the healthy balance that I need. And so I've been creating that in terms of what I am going to do, what I'm not going to do, what things have to happen. My meals are becoming more and more structured. So I'm not snacking outside of the time when I should be eating. I'm trying my best with my water, my fluid intake. I'm drinking my green tea like crazy, um, uh, which I've always loved green tea, but then I stopped, and I'm like, why did you stop? It was good for you, and so I'm doing that. Creating more structure allows me to feel that I'm confidently and intentionally doing what I say I'm going to do. So for me and for this space, we're going to have more structure. What that means is by next week, there will be a guide that we can follow in terms of what we're going to be discussing and doing every Sunday. So by June 16th, there will be a schedule of every Sunday so that you can see what's coming up, what things you might need to get ready for. So it won't just be a guide, it'll also be, there'll be some tips to support us to making sure that our ooh, it's 2:30, that our time together is well spent. So there'll be more structure in this space, more exercises for us to do throughout the week. You have to decide for yourself if you want to be a willing participant in those exercises. I can't force anybody to do anything, but what I'm telling you is if you want to support yourself in terms of combating fear, trauma, and all of those other things, some good structure, some good habits will be beneficial. The third thing is I do not like challenges. When people are like, oh, 30-day challenge, 90-day challenge. I don't like challenges, but we're going to do something different. So there will be a challenge once a month where we are pushing ourselves. We are standing in our power. And I don't know if y'all remember a couple of weeks ago when I said we're going to start requesting things and learning how to request things. We're going to revisit that. So once a month, there's going to be what I'm calling the big ask, not ass, not ASS, but ASK. The big ask. There's got to be something in your life that you desire that maybe you've been afraid to ask for. And so once a month, we're going to work on what is that for you? Now, for some people, it could be, I'm going to ask for $1 million. I'm not saying that's unrealistic. If that's what your ask is, then what is it? What are you going to create to support the request? We can't just ask for things and we don't believe that it's going to happen. So that's going to require some clarity, some belief, some trust, and freedom from the shame of even asking, for all of you people like me who are afraid to ask people for help. So we're going to work on that once a month as well. Okay. Number two, I already talked about this earlier, the time. An hour or an hour and a half tops. We cannot go any longer than that because it feels like I must be rambling. Unless the conversation is so juicy, we just cannot stop ourselves. So, more structure in Mama Meditations, more structure with the meditations. We're going to meditate for, I'm saying, for between 5 to 15 minutes. Oh my gosh, that seems so long. Do you know how many people I meet that say, oh, I can't meditate for that long? Yes, you can. If you can sit and watch a whole season of Bridgerton, you can sit and meditate. You can. And we are going to be working. I got that too. And I'm trying to get rid of one and increase in the other. But it will develop. It will develop. And it doesn't have to be anything material. As a matter of fact, I would prefer it if it's not material. Your big ask could be, I would like to have more courage in my life. I would like to have more love in my life. I would like to have more opportunities to socialize. I would like to have more opportunities to read. You have to decide what that is for you by asking yourself, well, what do I need? Why is it not present in my life right now? And how does this support me in living the life that I envision? Okay, so more structure, actual exercises to take us through the week from Sunday to Sunday, a guide of what we're going to be working on. And I am expecting everyone to keep me accountable. I feel accountable to you, and I say that you are accountable to me. Like we have to really stand in our power if we want things to look differently for us. And we are present in a time. You could have been born at any other time in history. You are present in a time that is so crucial to the transformation of the collective consciousness. And I know that maybe 30 years ago, there was somebody that said the same thing like, this is the time that's going to make the difference for all generations to come. But I truly believe that this time where we see so much dismantling of old paradigms and the fight to keep things the way they were or even worse, there is a definite fight between where we would love to be and where we used to be, and people are pulling and shoving and whew, and if it's happening externally, it's happening internally. That struggle between where I was and where I would like to be. And so we have got to start to stand in our power so that we can all make it through. And the third thing, one of my big asks is I am going back to coaching. I am going back to coaching one on one. I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like. Stay tuned. I will let everyone know when I have formulated what works and what feels doable for me in my new life. I got a husband that I'm creating. I'm trying to be a wife. Grandbaby girls turning 4. I mean, there are so many things going on in my personal life, trying to get this health together. But coaching is who I am. Coaching is what I do. And not doing it, I believe, has also contributed to me feeling like I'm aging rapidly. I love coaching. I love spiritual life coaching. I love the aha moments that happen when people start to see themselves, the truest version of themselves that doesn't feel like somebody else is telling you who you have to be, where you feel total ownership of who you I love it. There's nothing like it when you are sitting with someone and they recognize and realize who they truly are. It is a beautiful thing to witness. It is a beautiful thing to be a part of. It is a beautiful thing to facilitate. And I miss it. I miss it. And it's not that I haven't been coaching in my day to day life, because I believe that my coaching is integrated into everything that I do. But I'm telling you, taking someone from point A or facilitating from point A to point B, whew, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And considering this is the fifth anniversary of my consecration and graduation, it just feels like, girl, you did not experience what you experienced 5 years ago to not be operating from that place. And that is how I am taking my power back. And that also includes doing some events. I am prepared, maybe not 2024, but 2025. I need to be in multiple cities doing multiple things. Like Beloved and I talked about doing things together, and I'm ready. I'm really, really I'm preparing myself to get ready to do that. All of this talk of I want to go to Detroit, I want to go to Chicago, I'm coming. I don't know what it's going to look like just yet, but I feel it in my spirit, and I'm so grateful to be in a space where I'm excited about creating. Excited about creating, and so it's 2:44. We're going to meditate now. And I did not mean for that abrupt change. But before we get to the meditation, let me open it up and offer. Anyone have any comments, questions, concerns, or anything you would like to add to today's meditation? Um, as I was laying in my hammock yesterday, feeling the breeze and thinking about what we could meditate on after being gone for such a long time, I definitely felt the energy. Oh, before I finish that thought, yes, I am open to bartering. Thank you for saying that, because that has always been part of the plan, but it never really formulated that way. So yes, 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 yes. Yes, I am open to bartering. And for those of you who may not understand what that looks like, if there's a service that you offer, there's a service that I offer. We can talk about how we can exchange those services. Um, financially or through the services. We get to figure out what that looks like. So it may not look like a traditional coaching contract. It may look like whatever we create. And yes, I am open to that. Thank you for that. Um, so as I was laying in the hammock, I thought about, and because Juneteenth is coming up, I've just been thinking about restoration and repair. And that's what the break felt like for me, that I needed to repair myself. Not that I was broken, but there were things that had been dormant for far too long that needed to be shined up, almost like in the Wiz when the Tin Man was like, slide some oil to me. That's how it felt. It's like my joints are fine. They just need some oil. You know, that's what it's been feeling like. Like I have it all in here. I just need to tap in it, turn it on, reconnect it, and let's get to going. And so I was thinking about that for our meditation, because there are a lot of things that happen or occur in our lives that make us feel disconnected, that make us feel as though the things that we know to be true about ourselves are no longer true. And sometimes we can start to tell that story that, oh, I used to be this, but that's not me anymore. Or I used to do that, or I never got to that point in my life where I ever felt comfortable doing this. It's still within you. And just as our good sis Giselle said, you know, she had this old idea and she's, how do I put fresh eyes on it? By acknowledging that it is still there, by acknowledging that there is something within you that feels like it is bouncing around in your brain like a pinball machine, and you just want it to be still so that you can focus on it, so that you can get the attention that it needs, so that it can be expressed in the way that you would like for it to be expressed. But if you're like me, and sometimes you have the attention span of a squirrel, and you're over here, and then you want to do this, and then, oh my goodness, that looks like a good idea. And I was looking around my house this morning, and I'm like, this looks like someone with ADHD trying to build something, because there was a piece of something over here, a piece of something over there, and I'm like, you've been carrying the same thing from room to room to room. Focus, slow it down, and focus so that all the pieces start to come together. I am so excited that we're going to have this conversation. Oh, you're in Detroit. Listen, listen. Okay, let's take some deep breaths. You now, do you see what happens when you have a big ask? Everybody raise their hand if they have a big ask. Not ASS. You might have the ASS. Let's talk about the ASK. We need to get shirts that say I have a big ask, so that people know that we are in a that, because that is a form of creation. That is creative power, that is creative energy when it's in here, but not necessarily coming out, but it's in here. And it's not by accident that the throat chakra is by the heart chakra. It's in here. We just got to get it to come on, be expressed. Yes, my love, you know that I am willing to barter. Yes, Metabolic Maven said, I got a big ass. And I'm not afraid to tell people what it is. If anybody makes t-shirts, make me a t-shirt that says, I have a big ass. Let's start to breathe. Celeste says, I got a huge ass. Listen, is my ass is as wide as it is voluminous. Yes, I have a big ass. And I'm not afraid to show it. I'm not afraid to step in it and stand in it. I am not afraid or ashamed to say, yeah, I would love to have $1 million deposited in my bank account. I'm not afraid to ask the universe that I would love a new car that I don't have to pay for. I don't know who's giving it to me, but somebody's going to give me a new car. Giselle says she got a big ass. We need to get to the point where we're not afraid or ashamed to say what it is. It doesn't make us less than. We're not missing something. As a matter of fact, when you get clear about what your big ask is, it's because you know you deserve it. Why? It's all outside. Yes. I hope that through the rest of this week, we keep talking about our big asses because you know you deserve it. And I don't mean deserve like, a spoiled, entitled child. I mean that it's living inside of you and you are drawing it to its rightful home. It's living inside of me. This desire, this need, this want, this love, this thing is living inside of me. And it might not come in the way that I see it, but if I can connect with how it's going to make me feel, then I'll know when it's here. Because I could be wrong about the make and the model. I could be wrong about the time frame and when it comes. I could be wrong about it actually being $1 million. It could be $1 million worth of resources that are worth $1 million. It could be an experience that's worth $1 million. I don't know how it's coming, but I know I would like $1 million. If it's an experience, if it's the money, if it's the I want it. It's living inside of me and it wants to come home. It wants to come home. So let's take some deep breaths. Recognize and acknowledging in this right now moment that with my breath, with my inhale and my exhale, I am acknowledging that I am a living, breathing, spiritual being having a human experience. And in this human experience, I am learning so much about myself and others that it can only be for my highest good. That even those things that may not feel good initially, if I train my spiritual brain and expand my consciousness, perhaps I will see it differently. I am willing to acknowledge that harm has been done in my life and it's necessary for me to repair it. I'm responsible for the repair. I'm responsible for the restoration, even if I was unaware that the harm was occurring. I acknowledge that sometimes I dismiss the harm that was done to me. And I recognize the risk that comes with that, where I dishonor myself, my experiences, and where I remove accountability from those that have created the harm, even if it was not their intention. I recognize that the way I repair myself is my first order of business, where I do not need permission from anyone else. I recognize that I get to identify and name my trauma and my triumphs so that I do not leave room for anyone else to tell my story as they see fit. I am aware of the energy that is present in my body in this right now moment. And as more things are uncovered and discovered through my self evaluation, my own journey of personal development, may all of those things that I discover lead to my highest good, lead to me seeing them as opportunities for wisdom and for me to love myself even more. Let me create the safety that I need to support myself so that I am no longer in harm's way or being unaware of when I'm being harmed. So many of us are unaware of the harm that was done to us because we were just so focused on surviving. We were so focused on being kind. We were so focused on so many other things that we didn't recognize and acknowledge that harm was being done. And in this right now moment, we are acknowledging the harm we feel and the harm we have tried to conceal through distractions, procrastination, regret, shame, guilt, when it was never ours to possess. Mhm. We are so grateful for the places and spaces when we can see our true selves, be our true selves, and recognize that there's nothing wrong with us. That in this human experience, disappointment, abandonment, neglect is on the menu. And there will be times that we eat those things willingly or unwillingly, consciously and unconsciously. And may we give ourselves grace in both those circumstances. And if we have ever been the cause of harm for others, let us also acknowledge that and do whatever we feel is necessary to repair and restore ourselves so that we no longer cause any further harm, and ask for forgiveness in those places where it may be necessary. And if we are asking for forgiveness, may we offer forgiveness in those places where we need it most. Understanding that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or reconnecting or that all is forgotten. That true forgiveness is me freeing myself from whatever harm, whatever hurt, whatever trauma may have entered my life. And knowing that energy cannot die and it has not left, it is my responsibility to transform it into something greater so that it heals me, heals others, and becomes part of my testimony. That's how powerful I am. And if I ever need a moment to just sit with the harm, I pray that I do so in a way that I don't further harm myself or anyone else, but that I give myself, that I allow myself the grace and the mercy to see my wounds, cry if I need to, cuss if I want to, let me heal in a way that honors me and doesn't betray my spirit. And with every breath that we take from this point forward, let us recognize that we are in a process of repair and that we should be gentle with ourselves. We should take whatever necessary time we need. And let us also acknowledge that we may be coming in contact with others who are repairing themselves, and that the version we see may not be the final version. As we move through the energy of this week, allow kindness to enter into your consciousness. See all interactions as a point to love yourself more, greater, stronger, deeper. And let's not be afraid of our big ass. Let us be certain and clear that a request that is living within my body, in my mind, and in my spirit is there because it is ready to meet. It is ready for completion. It is ready for something that was created within me oh so long ago. Now we're ready. We are preparing. Mm. We are so ready. I am so ready. I am so ready to operate from a place of power that everything that I see is an opportunity to do so. Mm. May we carry the insight of all of those who have come before us. Let us not forget that whatever it is that we are attempting to do, preparing to do, has already been done in some shape and form previous to us. And that there's so much wisdom available to us if we are willing to ask and trust that we are constantly being guided. Sometimes when things are not working out and we think we're being denied, you are being guided away from or towards something else. I just saw right before we came on, I was trying to do something. Oh, I was trying to download something and it wasn't working. And then I just read in the news that there's a virus attached to it. I said, see there, I thought I needed that thing. And the universe was like, girl, that's not what you want. That is not what you need. And how many times? And I have learned that if I try to do something 2 to 3 times and it's not working, leave it alone. It's not for you. Something greater is out there. Um, if I'm sure about something and it doesn't work, I don't take that as a dismissal. I take that as a redirection. Okay, it's not a denial. And we talked about that right before the break about never been denied anything. If I look at it now, I have never really been denied anything. I've been redirected several times. And I said to somebody the other day, I was like, you got to be willing to die several times in your life. We are probably dying to things right now. There is something within you right now that is on its last leg, its last breath. Please don't try to resuscitate it. There might be a relationship, there may be a conversation that you feel like we keep having this conversation over and over and over. Just let it die. Let it die. Don't be afraid to let things die so that something new can be born, something new can come forth. We trying to hang on to stuff, tape it together, hold it together, glue it together. Let it go. It has served its purpose, and perhaps it needs to go somewhere else. Let it die. If it's your hair and you keep trying to hold on to those ends and you know they're split, cut those split ends off. It's like, I want the length. The length is not doing anything but splitting even more. Cut it off, let it die. And because, I was raised by Southerners, burn that hair. Don't let that hair go in the trash. Burn it. Let it go. Burn it. We don't let no hair just lay on the ground. We burn hair around here. Um, I so thoroughly enjoyed today. And if you see me with a big ass shirt on, you'll know why. Um, yes, it is. It is already done and on the way. And we are preparing for it. We are opening our hearts to it. I'm so glad. As always, and again, I'm still formulating the details, but this is my email address. If you want to have a discussion about bartering, if you want to join me some Sunday, let's talk. Let's talk. I am, because I'm now cutting things out of my life, I'm letting that stuff die because I recognize when you acknowledge that something is no longer serving you, you have to take action. Again, I was watching a video and I wanted to crawl through the phone. This woman was telling a story of how she was with a guy. They broke up, but they were still living together. And he didn't come home one night. And she's trying to find out where he is. And she's devastated. And she calls her girlfriend. Girlfriend's not answering. She's like, well, let me go over here to my girlfriend. Lo and behold, who's sitting on the couch with her girlfriend, but the boyfriend. And she said, well, I broke up with the boyfriend, but she was such a good friend. I didn't want to lose her. And I'm like, girl. And she's like, I don't trust her anymore, but I value the relationship. What is a relationship if there is no trust? Please do not be afraid to let things go. Let it die. We keep trying and trying and trying. If it's not starting, if it's not working, I know this is very contrary to everything you may have heard when you were younger. When the elders tell you, well, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it, give it to God and pray about it. God will work it out. Perhaps God has already worked it out by trying to separate and letting it die. If there's one thing I know about the God of my understanding, death is not an issue. So if things have come to an end, let them die. If there is no trust, there is no relationship at all. Like, I was like, who is this grown adult woman trying to figure out why and her question was, she was like, well, why do I still feel the need to be friends with her? That's the question we all want to know. Because if you've said out of your mouth, I don't trust this individual, then why? 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 So many questions that we have to ask ourselves. Um, Go to Marissa's page. She has a question for you. My question was very long and convoluted. Um, why am I creating energetic patterns that separate me for who and what I love and desire? Or to break that all down, why are you playing small? Why are you not believing in yourself? Why are you not trusting yourself? And what things do you now need to implement in your life that can support you so that you begin to trust yourself? And for me, structure, stability, and I don't even think I said this one, but insight, foundational insight. There is so much intelligence and wisdom around us. And y'all know one of my favorite books that I said I was going to jump into, dive into, and I haven't. I've been out here listening to Stephen King audiobooks, and I'm gonna have to put Stephen King down. Where is it? Oh, it's over on the shelf. What is the name of it? By Brother Maladome Some. The Healing Practices of Africa. That may not be the correct title, but I've shown it so many times. And so having that foundational insight is also beneficial to you trusting yourself, because when you are seeing other people explain it in ways and it starts to connect, Thank you, Marissa, the healing wisdom of Africa. And it starts to connect when you have those aha moments. It builds trust within your body when you're like, that makes sense. When you are like, I may not have had the language for it, but that right there makes sense. The other one is A Course in Miracles. And shout out to my prayer partner, where we would read a text before we prayed. And I'm telling you, when you have things that you trust, it could be the Bible, it could be the Quran, it could be the Torah. You have things that feel like found that they are part of your foundation, and you might be building a new foundation, but they are a part of your foundation, and then you can find something else to add to it. It builds trust and confidence in your spirit because you feel like now it makes sense. What I've been trying to articulate, that thing that was bouncing around in my brain, now I have a language for it. And that can be very, very comforting. I am so grateful for all of y'all who joined today. I really am. I missed y'all. I really did. And I recognize, because there were some lows in those 3 weeks where I was low, 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 low. And I recognize, because you don't have your spiritual community, because you are not operating from the place that you feel safe. And so I am happy to be back. The break was necessary because I always want to come from a clear place. And I was not clear. I was like I said, I felt like I was being thrown all over the place. And I'm so clear now about what is important, what I have to do, what is necessary for me to feel my best physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. It's a lot more clearer than it was. And remember, as I said in meditation, we are in the process of repair. And so similar to when you might take your car to the mechanic and they love to do this, you're like, I need an oil change. And you go to pick your car up and they're like, you don't only need an oil change, you need your brakes done, you need this done. You're like, well, who knew? They knew, because their job is to not just look at sections of what is necessary, but to look at the whole picture. And the same is true for you. Your job is to not just look at one sector of your life, but to look at the whole picture and recognize that you are in the process of repair. And so you feel like you are fixing one thing and then something else. You feel like your physical arena is great, but then the spiritual one falls to the wayside, or vice versa. And that's how I felt. Like I felt great spiritually, but physically, that was a mess. And so now that we are creating more balance for ourselves with stability, with structure, and with foundational insight, I am even more excited about the remaining of this year. So next week, you get a guide to help you along this Power 24 journey, some exercise, and a big old ask. A big old ask. Yes. Look at the whole person. The whole person. The whole person. I love y'all. And I thank you for your participation. Yes, that's the name of the book by Maladome Some. God rest his spirit. Yeah. Thank you y'all for everything. For everything. For everything. I'm gonna post the email one more time. I am all over the place. Where am I supposed to be? Nope. Look. There we go. That's over. All right. Any comments, questions, concerns? Again, email me. Continue to repair yourself. Continue to journal. One of the things that's been helpful for me is to have not only a note journal at home, but also one at the child care center, because sometimes things happen and I want to write it down immediately. And so carry a little notebook with you if you can't carry your big journal, so that as things happen, you can jot them down and revisit them later. I love y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. It's a beautiful day here in Delaware. I'm going to go outside, maybe throw something on the grill, talk to my man, talk to my beloved, hopefully get to see grandbaby girl, be with my family. And I hope that the rest of your day is as loving as you are. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. Yes, we're going to have a big ask week. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. And don't forget to reach out, please. I want to hear from you.